Hello and welcome back. This is Black Girls Who Read, the book club for Black girls by a Black girl. My name is Jasmine. I am your host, and I started a book club recently for women in my community and also women globally, Black women globally, which is why it's Black Girls Who Read. I host meetings every other Friday in person. We just had one yesterday, which is why you are getting an upload today, because I then post that Saturday with the same information that was discussed in the in-person meetings. And our first book that we are reading in spirit of Halloween is Delicious Monsters by Liselle Sambury. Now, I have read the first 10 chapters of Delicious Monsters. I have about 15 notes, probably more. 15 pages of notes, probably more about this book. Okay, we're gonna start with our homegirl Daisy. Now, we get introduced early on to Daisy and her mother Grace. Now, Daisy was explaining to us how she got her name. Now, first of all, I was not really able to keep up with the way the story was moving in the very beginning. It was very weird to me the way it started out, and then I eventually caught up. Daisy, and that was an insight to Daisy's mind. Daisy is not our clear thinker. Now, this story takes place in Toronto, and Daisy is a 17-year-old girl, and Daisy sees ghosts. Yes, our girl Daisy sees ghosts. That's not how she refers to them. She uses the D word to refer to them, but she sees ghosts. Everywhere she goes, Daisy sees ghosts. And Daisy's mom, Grace, I have notes, so if you see me looking down, I'm looking at this notebook. So the introduction to Daisy was just a description of Daisy, but then we roll in to Chapter 2. Chapter 1 was 1 or 2 pages describing how Daisy got her name. Now, Daisy stated that her mom stated that she pulled over, essentially, Sparks note, she pulled over on the side of the road. It was a fire. It was a big catastrophe, and she came across these flowers. And that is how Daisy got her name, because the daisies were her mother's salvation in that moment. Apparently, Daisy's mom, Grace, is just very dramatic. So we don't necessarily know if that story is true or not. Daisy's mom was also 16 when she had her, which is what we find out later on in the story. And it kind of makes sense to how Grace acts as a person. Because as we will see going forward, Grace is very immature, and Grace has this thing where she kind of puts everything on Daisy. Like, as we move through the chapters, you'll see what I mean when I say that she puts everything on Daisy, and I really sincerely do not care for how she puts everything on Daisy. Now, in chapter 2, we get introduced to Daisy and Noah. Now, early on, you kind of get the vibe that Noah, we don't like Noah. We're not a fan of Noah, okay? And as we progress down into the oncoming chapters, we will figure out why we don't like Noah. We don't like Noah. Noah's not that guy. He's not that person. Noah is in his 20s. First of all, that is information that slowly introduced us that Noah's in his 20s. Noah is in college. Daisy is 17, in high school. Now, this relationship between Noah and Daisy, it definitely sets the stage on how Daisy's self-esteem and her self-image plays into their relationship. Now, early on, we are introduced to Noah and the girl Stephanie. Now, Daisy is cyber stalking Stephanie. Yes, she is cyber stalking Stephanie. She sees Stephanie and notices that Stephanie looks younger than she does. So she's assuming that Noah has ghosted her for a younger girl. And I'm like, Noah, I hope that's not what you did, Noah. I hope that's not how you went about that, sir, because that would very much be not okay. Now, Daisy struggles with her identity as a black girl dating this non-black man. And Daisy, we see this not only in just how she focuses on the fact that this new girl is not black, that she is in fact the same race as Noah, who is not just not black. Noah is a white man. He's a white man that preyed on a 17-year-old little girl. We don't like Noah. Now, Daisy is fixated on this issue of race. It's constantly going to her comparing herself to Stephanie. Well, I'm black and she's white. She's small, I'm not. She has long hair and I don't. Her hair is naturally straight. I have to relax my hair to straighten it out. These are things that are perpetually repeated by Daisy in numerous ways. So we see that having dated Noah really impacted her up top, which is really concerning to me. And I really don't like how much it impacts Daisy throughout the story. Now, Noah, this is an important information. This is an important piece of information for a later chapter. Noah took Daisy's V card. That is important information. Okay, just keep it up top. Noah took her V card. Now, in these first 3 chapters, we are gathering that Daisy is mentally fragile. Daisy is not all here. We have times in the book where you see Daisy visibly go, like, she could be in the middle of doing something. Like, there's a scene, I think it's chapter 4. It's chapter 4 or chapter 5, where Daisy is in the bathroom after seeing Noah, and she's actively stalking Noah. I don't think she saw Noah at this point, but she's actively stalking Noah. And Daisy's in the bathroom, and she pulls the clippers out to start cutting off her relaxed ends. Right? And then in the midst of this, we then get a flashback to when and how Noah ghosted Daisy and why he ghosted Daisy. So we're at a party with Noah's friends. We have Tara, who is one of Noah's friends, and she is in the kitchen with Daisy, making Daisy a drink with a very inappropriate name. I don't know what I can and cannot say on YouTube, so I'm just not going to say it, but it had an inappropriate name because Daisy stated, Noah likes women that sip wine. I don't like the taste of wine. Yeah, baby, because you're 17. So she's in the kitchen with Tara. Tara's making her this drink with this very inappropriate name, and Daisy is drunk. And Daisy is sitting next to Noah and his friends, and she then proceeds to talk about something that her best friend Megan, who we get introduced to in I think about chapter 4 or 5, we get introduced to Megan. And Daisy is sitting and she is talking to Daisy is sitting and she's talking to Noah's friends, and she then brings up something that Megan said in world history. Noah has told his friends that Daisy is in college and she is a biology major, and Daisy forgot the story that she was supposed to be following. She lets it slip that, oh, I'm not in college. I am in fact a little high school girly pop who is outside with this grown man. And they're like, Noah's friends are like, if you're a biology major, why are you taking world history? That is when Noah then squeezes her thigh and is like, we need to go outside. Let's hit outside. They spin the block a couple times so that way she can sober up, and then he sends her home in an Uber and he never talks to her again. And not only did he not talk to her again, Daisy gets a DM the next day on Instagram from Tara because Tara took to social media to look Daisy up and finds out that Daisy is 17, even though Daisy says that she made it her business to not post her age, as to not give away the fact that Noah was essentially preying on a 17-year-old girl, and he knew he was wrong because you can't tell anybody how old this girl is. Now, it is mentioned more than once that in Toronto, the age of consent is 16. But Noah is still aware that he is wrong. So after Daisy gets this message from Tara on Instagram where Tara's like, I did this for your own good. Daisy's 17. She doesn't understand that everything that's happening is wrong. This man is in his 20s. He is having sexual relations with you. And he can't even tell his friends how old you really are. Something's wrong, Daisy. Something's wrong, Daisy. And Daisy gets upset with Tara and she blocks Tara on Instagram. And then she proceeds to send Noah 27 text messages that he never responds to. 27 text messages that he never responds to. That is the moment we get while Daisy is clipping her hair. She's taking the clippers to her head, and she has this random memory. And I'm like, oh, that's not cool. I don't like that. I don't like the way that sounds at all. We find out later in later chapters that Daisy met Noah when Noah was supposed to be, Noah was a mentor at her school, or she went to the college and met Noah through a mentorship program. I can't remember exactly how that happened, but they met through a mentorship program. How predatory is that? You're around young girls and you're using this to essentially prey on little girls that you see are vulnerable. And that is one thing I could not get behind. Did not like Noah. Now, in later chapters, around chapter 7 is where we learn that Noah was using the mentorship to meet girls. That's how that went. I don't care if that was the intent or not. That's how it looks. That's what it is. And he, in chapter 7, is making Daisy look unreliable. Now, I am skipping ahead because that all just plays into the dynamic between Daisy and Noah. Now, we get introduced to Noah after we get introduced to Brittany and Jaden. Now, Brittany and Jaden, we get introduced to in chapter 3. Now, Brittany is the daughter of a woman who bought the house that Daisy and her mother lived in. Now, we're going to get to the details of the house, but we are introduced to Brittany and Jaden 10 years after Daisy and her mother moved into the house in Timmins. When they got to the house, that's when things got real. But Brittany and Jaden have a YouTube channel called Haunted. And they work for a media company called Tort, and they are in college, and this is their internship. They are paid interns, but this is their internship, and they are trying to establish themselves with Haunted. But they are being told that they are going to lose creative control because they are playing too much on the forgotten black girl trope. Somebody that just rubbed me the wrong way. Somebody just rubbed me the wrong way. And they're being told that if they don't come up with something new and kind of hop off this forgotten black girl trope, and they don't come up with a new proposal by the end of the day, they're essentially, in so many words, you're losing creative control is what they got told. And Brittany don't want that to happen. Brittany does not want that to happen. Brittany is looking to really catapult Haunted into a new level because she wants to have her own wealth and her own money to get away from her mother. Now, her mother has stated that the house made her such a better mother and the house made her such a better person. Our girl Brittany disagrees. Brittany disagrees with her mama's take on the house making her a better person. Brittany and her mama, they not here. They not locked in. They not locked in at all. Brittany is she's not a fan of her mother. She feels that her mother is fake and that her mother is giving this false portrayal to the world. Like she is this amazing, phenomenal woman who just changed and healed her heart. And Brittany is like, girl, hell no. Now, Brittany is our cute little plus size melanated baby girl. And I like Brittany's character. Brittany is very no nonsense, but you know, it does come up in chapter 10 that Brittany is seen as the aggressive black girl. And she is trying not to feed into that trope so much. So when they go on interviews, she kind of lets Jaden take the lead because people have stated that Brittany is intimidating. Okay. Okay. Now, Brittany and Jaden... Excuse me. Brittany and Jaden got an anonymous tip that did not give their name, did not give their information, just provided them with the information for Noah, Tara, and Megan. Now, I'm very curious to keep reading because I want to know who this anonymous tip was that gave her this information about the house. And about Noah and Tara and Megan. I want to know. I'm sincerely interested in knowing. I really want to know that. So they are going and investigating. They drive to Timmons to go talk to Megan, Noah, and Tara. Now, I have not gotten to the point yet where they go speak to Tara, because I just started chapter 11. So I haven't gotten to the point where they go talk to Tara yet. But I have witnessed them speak to Noah, and I think they spoke to Megan. It's been alluded to that they spoke to Tara over the phone, but I want to see what happens in person. Now, we get introduced to them talking to Noah, and Noah, this is 10 years later, and Noah is trying to distance himself from Daisy as much as he possibly can. He's like, oh, we never dated. She was kind of obsessed with me. Oh, she was just young. I don't know what I did to give her this impression. We're like, we know you took that little girl's V card. We know you took that V card from her. So why are you actively acting like you don't know who Daisy is and Daisy's crazy and Daisy was obsessed with you because she's not here to defend herself? I don't like that. I'm not a fan. Very toxic. Very much don't like Noah. I'm not a fan. But he is making an attempt to make Daisy look unreliable. And if you're the wrong kind of person or the right kind of person, you can easily fall for this. Because if it's 10 years down the line and Daisy's not there to defend herself, you could easily be like, maybe she was being unreliable, maybe she was snapping. I don't think that's how that went down. But one thing I do have to know is that I do like the way Liselle set the story up. In these first 9 chapters, she really took her time to build up to what's happening in the house once Daisy and her mom get to the house. Now, we're going to talk about Daisy and her mom getting to the house. Now, it is around chapter 4 that we get introduced to the house. We get introduced to the house. But I want to go back and set more on Daisy. And I want to go back to talking about Daisy's level of immaturity and why I feel like she shouldn't have been with Noah. It's referenced multiple times that in order for her to cope, Daisy listens to Kids Bop. I wrote that down because it was very important to me. Because again, it speaks to the creep in Noah. Why are you dealing with a little girl who has to cope by listening to Kids Bop? We proceed. I digress. So we get introduced to the house in chapter 4. Now, in chapter 4, we get introduced to the house, we get introduced to Daisy's dad, and we get introduced to Daisy's grandmother. Now, mind you, again, Daisy's mother had her at the age of 16 when she was living out in Timmins. And the house is coming down to her mother from her sister's ex-husband. This sister of mom's, I think her name is pronounced Diane. Diane, I'm not really sure. She has nothing to do with family. Nothing. They have Christmases, Thanksgivings, birthdays, any celebration. She's not coming. Diane is not showing up. She said, I'm cool. Leave me alone. Her husband, Peter, hands down the house to Grace. Now, it gets really weird because when Daisy is talking to Megan about them moving, she sees Megan right before Megan goes off to camp. And Megan is like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean, friend? Like, you're leaving? Like, you can't be leaving. And Daisy's like, yeah, we're leaving, we're moving. And it's like, Megan is asking Daisy, like, okay, so you're gonna come back, right? And Megan is convinced that Daisy should come back. And she's telling Daisy, like, if you go out there, you're gonna miss prom, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, why can't you and your mom just sell the house? Like, why can't y'all just rent it out? But it has some weird rules to it. And Daisy's like, well, we can't just rent it out. We have to live on the property. And if we don't, the house goes to the government. Now, this is the point. We get introduced to Megan in chapter 6. I'm all over the place. Bear with me. We get introduced to Megan in chapter 6. And Megan is like, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand why I can't just rent the house. Daisy's like, look, we can't rent the house out. We're not allowed to do that. We have to live in the house in order to keep it or it goes to the government. Her Aunt Diane didn't want the house. Now, Daisy and her mother see this house as their come up. They see the house as their come up because it is mentioned numerous times in each chapter, essentially at least one time in each chapter, since like chapter 2 or chapter 3, that Daisy sees the house as a status symbol. Daisy sees the house as a sign of hope to get out of this poor middle class lifestyle, because it gets grinded into her head by her mother that all they need is a house. If they have a house, they have freedom. If they have a house, they have everything. And Grace really pounds into Daisy's head that a house is the ultimate sign of freedom. It's the ultimate goal. It's the only thing we need is a house. So Daisy is like, I don't care where the house comes from. We need the house. We need the house. We need the house. Daisy is hell-bent on getting in this house. Now, Daisy's dad calls her and tells her, your grandmother just called me. And I need you guys to not move into the house. And Daisy's like, well, why can't we move into the house? Her dad gives her nothing. He gives her nothing. He just simply tells her, I would prefer you not move into the house. And Daisy's like, why? He's like, don't ask me why. I just prefer that you don't move it to the house. And apparently this is just the way dad operates. It's very much do as I say, don't ask me questions. Just do what I say. Now, we never get a clear view on why he does not want them moving into the house. He just says, don't move into the house. And he's not given a reason. He's not giving a reason. Now, I think that what's going to come up is the reason why he doesn't want them to move into the house. Clearly, that's what's going to come up. It's a book. It's predictable. We get all the answers at some point. But I think that he doesn't want her moving into the house for the same reasons that mom does not. Mom wants the house, but you could see that Grace hesitates because Grace puts the choice on Daisy in chapter 5. She puts that on Daisy. She tells Daisy, we can have the house. The house is being handed down to us, but you make the decision. And I'm like, why does a 17-year-old need to make the decision to move to the house? Why does Daisy have to be the one to make the decision to move to the house? I feel like Grace knows why Daisy's dad doesn't want them moving into the house. And she wants to have deniability. She wants to be able to say, well, Daisy made the decision. I didn't make the decision. Daisy made the final decision to move into the house. So if anything happens in the house, it's because Daisy made the final decision to move into the house. And that is something that I did not like. Grace oftentimes puts the weight of things onto Daisy. And she also has this lack mindset. So she not only has parentified Daisy, and Daisy is the only child. She has not only parentified Daisy, she also puts everything onto Daisy. Like, there's a piece in chapter 5 where Daisy is telling us about her mom's mindset, where she's like, there's a line in there where she goes, it's a common line of Grace to tell Daisy, I can't live off of nothing, Daisy. And it's apparently a frequent line that she uses. I can't live off nothing, Daisy. I can't live off nothing. And that bothers me a lot, because why are you doing that to your kid? Why are you putting that responsibility on your kid, Grace? That's a you decision, ma'am. You make those choices, not Daisy. Not a fan of Grace either. But I think that also plays into the fact that Daisy was born when her mom was 16. I think that Grace has this level of immaturity because she had Daisy at 16. Daisy is only a year older than she was when she had Daisy. So I think that definitely plays into why Grace acts the way she acts and does the things that she does. She's just immature. That's just that. She's immature. She's essentially a child with a child. And not only is she a child with a child, she's also walking down the same road that her mother did, with this like lack mindset, but also this mindset that you have to have it all. Because it gets brought up that when her mother called her about the house, she was badgering her like, oh, why don't you have a house yet? Why do you keep living in the cities, wasting your money on apartments? What are you doing? Get a house, get a house. And this is how Grace treats Daisy. Daisy has what she calls study sessions with her mom, where her mom is basically hammering to her head that she needs to be perfect. She needs to be perfect. She needs to be a certain kind of way. She needs to do a certain kind of thing. And she refers to these sessions, these are designated times that Grace does this. And it's having, quite frankly, it's having the opposite effect on Daisy that she thinks it's having. Because Daisy is just like, Daisy's not taking it in the way Grace wants her to take it in. Daisy is actively taking it in as, my mom has worked hard my whole life and she has nothing. So what is the purpose? What is the purpose? That's why when Megan is like, oh, you're going to move back to Toronto for college, right? Like, you're going to apply for universities in Toronto. And Daisy's like, Daisy doesn't say it outright to her, but she's like, I'm not going to college. College is a waste of time. Daisy stated that, where's the line that Daisy stated? Daisy essentially stated that, like, she doesn't see a point in going to college and trying to work yourself into a happy, peaceful life. She's like, it's a waste of time. Why would I waste my time like that? And I'm like, I think that comes directly from Grace. I think Grace is actively trying to teach Daisy what her mother forces onto her, but it's not sticking the way it's stuck to her. It's having the opposite effect. It's sticking, but it's sticking in the way that she didn't think it was going to stick. Where Daisy is like, I don't see a point. My mother has done all this and has gotten virtually nowhere. We're poor middle class family. What's the point? What is the actual point? And I'm like, you know what, Daisy? To each his own. That's a valid view, but to each his own, baby girl. To each his own. In chapter 6, we are still in chapter 6. We go to Daisy actively stalking Noah. Again, everything is based around Noah. Everything is based around Noah. And every time we hear about Noah, we hear about something else that makes me not like Noah. I don't like him. Daisy is cyber stalking him. Right? She is cyber stalking this man. Finds out he is at his friend Dave's studio. She then proceeds. She knows when he's coming home. Okay? She knows when he's coming home. Is at his house when he gets there. He walks past Daisy. She stops him. He's like, whoa, what are you doing here? And Daisy's like, oh, I'm in the area getting schnitzel. He's like, right, schnitzel. And she is talking to him and he's telling her, like, look, like, shit gets awkward, okay? And Noah's like, look, Daisy, like, Tara was right. I had no business dealing with you. We don't need to be together. We need to let this go. And Daisy is like, Noah, what? Like, but, and Noah's like, no, Daisy, I can't do this with you. I had no business dating you. You were 17. We both know that 16 is the legal age consent, but we have no business doing this. We had no business doing this in the first place. Which again takes me to future chapters where Noah's like, oh, we never dated. Just because you're saying that you never dated her doesn't mean you didn't date her. Come on, Noah. Come on, be so serious. And then Daisy reveals that she knows who Stephanie is. I'm like, girl, why would you give away that you've been cyber stalking this man? This man's like, how do you know? What? Well, how do you know who Stephanie is? And she's like, is she 18? And he's like, yes, she's 18, Daisy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't like how he tried to, of course she's 18. Daisy was 17. Like, please stop. Please stop. She proceeds to tell him as he's trying to walk away, he's like, look, Daisy, I'm done. We're not doing this. She tells him, I'm moving. And he's like, good for you. Thumbs up to you. Get gone. He's so ready for her to leave because he just wants to act like nothing ever happened between him and Daisy. Which I don't like it. I don't like it. But it is at the end of chapter 6 that Daisy is crying and she tells us that a ghost is licking the tears off her face. I'm like, girl, we don't... Okay, Daisy. Okay, Daisy. So what I like about Delicious Monsters is that it bounces between Daisy and Brittany. And I am so excited to continue seeing like where things go with Daisy and Brittany, because I am so curious to know what went down. I am beyond curious to know what went down in that house that led to them getting information about Daisy in that house. Now, it is in chapter 10, excuse me, that we get to what happened and how Daisy and her mom ended up in the house when they left. Some crazy shit went down at the end of chapter 10, okay? Some crazy shit went down, okay? We start to see the dynamic between Daisy and her father unfold. And we start to see cracks in Daisy's mental state. It's around chapter 8, chapter 9 that we really start to see the cracks in Daisy's mental state. Now, we were always aware that there were cracks in Daisy's mental. The stalking Noah, the random flashbacks at probably some of the most inconvenient times. And then on top of that, she's seeing ghosts. Our girl is not, she's not here all the way. She's not here. And I've already explained things about chapter 7 where she met Noah, how she met Noah, and how he tried to make her seem emotionally unstable. And it is chapter 7 when we get mention of this anonymous source reaching out to Brittany and Jaden about Tara and Megan, and this anonymous source gave Brittany and Jaden Megan and Tara's information along with Noah's. And we continue to gather in chapter 7 that Noah is a poser. He's still a poser. He comes from a wealthy family and he's out here preaching about millionaires being greedy. And it's like, okay, but your parents are rich. Your parents are rich. He's trying to live like he's this like down to earth. I'm just one of the guys. I'm this guy. He's basically like a hipster. He's still actively trying to be a hipster while also trying not to paint himself as a predator. Which, Noah, pick a side. Pick a side and stick to it, Noah. Pick a side and stick to it. I just don't like him. And even more in this chapter, in chapter 7, I don't like him. But it's around chapter 7 and chapter 8 where Daisy and her mom are moving to the house. They're driving to Timmons. This is when we get Daisy and Grace in the U-Haul. They packed up their apartment, their little cute little cozy apartment that Daisy is painting as poor lower middle class type shit. And they are packed up and they're going to Timmons. And her dad is still at it trying to get Daisy to not move while also not giving her explanation as to why she shouldn't move. Her dad gets on my nerves with this because her dad is very much like, just do as I say. Don't ask me questions. Just do what I say. And it's like, sir, you got to give explanations as to why you don't want people to do certain things. Like, you can't just be like, oh, don't do it because I said don't do it. Like, Daisy is very much, you gonna tell me why? Or her dad's like, just don't do it. I don't have to give you further explanation. Just don't do it. That don't work over here. So, sir, sorry, that don't work. Not a fan of her dad at all. Daisy, chapter 8 is where we really start to see the cracks come in. Like I stated before, this is where we really start to see the cracks come in for Daisy. We learn that Daisy is this very emotional person who tries to act unaffected, but realistically, deep down, homegirl is a ball of anxiety. She is a ball of anxiety and repetitive thoughts, while also giving this notion that she is just she's an unbothered queen. And it's like, no, Daisy, you're very bothered, you're very emotional. And this is where we learn that her mom is a flaky individual. Her mom is flaky. She's not a super reliable source. I'm not really a fan of Grace. But you know, some characters we like, some characters we don't. And they're not made to be liked. Daisy makes mention, she says a statement that really stuck with me. She goes, but the stillness, the way her body changed, made it seem like something about moving was hard and I didn't know what. Which goes back to this idea that I have, that Grace knows what's happening in the house and she knows that there's something bad in the house, which is why she puts the onus for moving onto Daisy. Because she knows that there's something in that house that's not it. And she knows why Dad doesn't want them to move. Grace does not know that Daisy's dad has told Daisy, don't move. He's not going to talk to Grace himself. He doesn't like Grace. He's just telling Daisy, tell your mom I said not to go. And Daisy's not telling her mom because Daisy doesn't like to talk to her mom about her dad. Her mom thinks that Daisy doesn't like to talk about her dad, period. Daisy just doesn't like to talk to her mom about her dad. So Daisy has not expressed to her mom, hey, Dad says we shouldn't move. Are you going to tell me why we shouldn't move? Or are you just going to let me figure that out on my own? And Daisy can't even ask her mother this because her mother essentially operates the same way her dad does. I'm just going to tell you to do a thing and I'm expecting you not to ask me questions. Just do as I say, don't ask me questions. Which I don't fuck with. I don't fuck with that type of mindset at all because I'm like, damn, if you're going to be giving somebody instructions, at least give them an explanation as to why. Damn. So they hop in the U-Haul, they drive to Timmins. Timmins is 8 hours away from Toronto. They took a trip. To move. And getting there is a time. And this is where we really see the cracks in Daisy. Daisy starts to talk about death. Daisy starts to talk about dying. Daisy talks about at some point where she was afraid that she would lay in her bed and that a spirit would lay on her and basically suffocate her to death. I'm like, girl, where did this come from? Where did this mindset come from, Daisy? Daisy never really talked about death like that until they started driving to Timmins. And when they get to Timmins at night. And you start to feel the weirdness. You start to feel how things start to get strange because Daisy's like, driving up, I didn't see any ghosts. There were no ghosts in the house. There were very few ghosts outside. There's no ghost. And I'm like, homegirl, why there ain't no ghosts? Why there ain't no ghosts, Daisy? There's no ghosts. And this starts freaking Daisy out. And Daisy starts to freak out. Daisy starts to freak out. Now, when they get to Timmins, they go to this house. Mom goes into the house. She comes out upset. Mom comes out upset with the keys. And Daisy is not aware who Mom met. Mom met the man who is moving them into the house. The man who essentially makes the rules around the house. Who does the dealings with the house. I did not write his name down. I don't know why I didn't do that. But that's who Mom goes to see the lawyer. That's who it is. It's the lawyer. Mom goes to see the lawyer, get the keys, and him and his partner help her and Daisy move their stuff into the U-Haul, out of the U-Haul, into the boat that they have to take across a lake to get to the house. They have to take a lake. They have to go across a lake in a boat to get to the house. Now, in chapter 9, we see more of Daisy being an immature child. It's chapter 8, not chapter 9. In chapter 8, we get more of Daisy being an immature child. Daisy's dad calls and goes, "Are you there?" No hi, hellos, just "Are you there?" And Daisy's like, "No, not yet. They're not at the house yet." And he's like, just, if something happens, because he's already accepted the fact she's not going to do what I say. He's like, if something happens in that house, if you feel unsafe, let me know and I will buy you a ticket to go to Hamilton to stay with your grandmother. Not come stay with me, to stay with your grandmother. This sends Daisy into a little emotional tizzy. And she asks her dad, in the midst of that, "Do you know anything about me?" She asks him, "What's my favorite color? What's my favorite plant? What music do I listen to the most?" And her dad is like, "What? What are you talking about?" She's like, "Do you know the answer to any of those questions?" And he's like, I don't get what this is. And Daisy's like, "We've talked every week for the last 10 years. Every Saturday for the last 10 years. You don't know anything about me." And she hangs up the phone. Last thing her dad says to her is, "Please be careful." She then asks these questions to her mother, and her mother responds back, and her mother says, "Green, Monsteras, and Kids Bop." And Daisy then proceeds to say, "That was the difference between mom and dad. One of them pretended to know me, to care about me, and one of them actually did." Now, Daisy, this really speaks to why Daisy was so stuck on Noah, is because Daisy seems to be the kind of character that latches on. She seems to be the kind of person that latches on to any resemblance of love. It doesn't have to actually be love, but if it even closely resembles love, Daisy is latching onto it like it's the last piece of meat ever. She's like, "Give me that." Which is why she's so attached to Noah and she's stuck on Noah. Now, it's rolling into chapter 9. And this is where we get into the house and where Daisy is like, "I don't see any ghosts." Daisy doesn't see any ghosts in the house. She doesn't see any ghosts in the area. They get there, it's nighttime. So Daisy is like, they're usually out in the nighttime. They roll up, there's people in RVs, there's people camping, and Daisy's kind of like, okay, the vibes. But this is still at the point where Daisy starts to talk about death and dying. This is when our girl starts to talk about death and dying. Sorry, please don't take my video down. She talks about unaliving. I don't know if I could talk about the G word. She gets there and she sees that there's the main house, the mansion, and then the bunkie. The bunkie is where her and mom are going to be living. She gets in there, it's fully furnished. She's like, "What are we going to do with the mansion?" Because mom's like, "We're living in the bunkie. What are we going to do with the mansion?" And Grace is like, "Oh, we're going to Airbnb out the mansion." Because Grace is like, "I'm going to make my money off this house regardless." Now, the property tax of the house are covered for years at this point because Uncle Peter had that money. So the property tax for the house is covered for like 2 or 3 years, probably longer. And she's gonna Airbnb out the house and they're gonna live in the bunkie. So Daisy is still really not feeling it. Daisy feels like something is off. Daisy even states, "Something curled up in the pit of my stomach and I refuse to acknowledge it as fear." Daisy knew before going to that house that something was lurking in that house. Something was lurking in the house and Daisy refused to acknowledge that. Her gut was saying, "Girl, you need to run, bitch. You're not safe. Leave." She refused to acknowledge it. Now, Daisy refused to acknowledge it because Daisy even stated in the book, "I don't want to fuck this up." And Grace even tells her in so many words, like, "Look, at this point, we're here. You have the decisions. You have the option to not ruin this." In so many words, she says, "You have the option to ruin this and not ruin this. Be a big girl, put your big girl pants on, and make a decision on whether you're going to ruin this for us or not." And Grace takes that Daisy takes that and she's like, I'm not gonna fuck this up for me and my mom. I'm gonna buckle down and ignore the fear in my stomach that's telling me I need to get the hell up out of here. I wish she didn't do that. I really wish she didn't do that, because it's giving me the vibes that something bad is about to go down in this house and Daisy is gonna make herself solely responsible for it, and I sincerely do not like that for her. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, I do not like that for her at all. And Daisy's asking, like, who has a mansion and then builds another house beside it? And Grace flat out ignores her and just goes into the house. She goes to take a shower. She leaves Daisy to her own devices. And this is when things start to get weird. Okay, this is when things start to get weird. Even though Daisy is acknowledging that she has her own space and she likes having her own space, our good sis is still not with the vibes. She's still not about it. She's still not about it. Daisy, while Grace is in the shower, the house starts to tell Daisy why she shouldn't be about it. So this is the last sentiment I'm going to leave you guys with, because I'm going to reread chapter 10 because I don't have a lot of notes on chapter 10. This is where things start to get kind of crazy. So Daisy is feeling around in her head because she is still acknowledging the fact that she has a mini fro now. And she is accepting this. And while Daisy is in her head, she feels what is a scab. And Daisy is picking at it. Because Daisy is like, I didn't get that close to my scalp that I have a scab. I would have remembered cutting myself. Daisy starts to pick at the scab. And Daisy describes the pain as excruciating as she's picking at the scab. And she eventually goes to find tweezers. She gets the tweezers, goes in her head, and she's picking and fighting for her life through the pain that she feels. Fighting for her life through the pain. And sees something white sticking out from underneath this quote-unquote scab. And when she fully pulls the scab off, it's a worm. It's a white worm in her head. It's a white worm in her head. And Daisy is freaking out. Daisy is freaking out. She's losing her fucking mind. She's losing her shit. She goes to her mom. And she's like, Mom, there's a worm in my head. And Grace is like, what the hell? Grace is in the shower. She's like, what the hell are you talking about? Daisy goes, look at my head. Look at my head. Nothing is in her scalp. There's no scab. There's no remnants of any bugs. There's nothing on her scalp. And Grace is like, there's nothing there. Maybe you should just go scrub your head. She's like, you don't... Daisy's like, I have lice. Maybe I have lice. And Grace is like, you don't have lice, sweetheart. You don't have lice. And Daisy is like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And she even goes to look in her head and does not see anything after that. She doesn't see anything after that. And that is when I knew shit was about to go left for our girl in that house. That night, I knew she was about to go left. And then the next day is when her and her mother go to get their stuff off of the U-Haul. And that is where I am going to leave it as far as the book. I'm going to reread chapter 10. And after I read everything else, I'm going to come back and we're going to discuss this book at the end of the month. And I'm just on chapter 10. I'm on chapter 10 at this point. So I'm going to go back and reread chapter 10, like I said. But I do want to leave off the video by making a couple of comments. One, I really like what Liselle is doing with the book. Now, her approach to Daisy reminds me of Stephen King's approach to Jack Torrance in The Shining, where there was a buildup of watching Jack go crazy. If you've never read The Shining, I would suggest you don't do it if you scare very easily. If you are a true horror fanatic and you want to read The Shining because you haven't yet, read it. Just be prepared. It's scary as hell. It's scary as hell. And one thing I really liked about The Shining is that you get to watch Jack go crazy. Like, it's like a slow progression of watching Jack go crazy. And that's what Liselle is doing here with Daisy. She is giving us a build up to Daisy's mental cracking. And I thoroughly enjoy that kind of build up. I don't like when things are rushed in a book. I like details. I like to watch a story go slowly because I want to see all the little cracks. I don't want it to be, she might be going crazy, she's going crazy. It's, that didn't seem right. That also didn't seem right, but maybe that's just a coincidence. And then when you eventually get to, you're like, oh shit, she's going bananas. I like that a lot. I love that a lot. But I'm going to end it here. If you have not started Delicious Monsters and you would like to keep up with us, go get the book. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Instagram at Black Girls Who Read. I'm going to put the username for my Instagram in the description box. And then next week, be prepared because we are going to get introduced to our book for November. Can't believe it's already been damn near a month since I started this book club. At that point, it's going to be damn near a month, but I am super excited. I am so happy that you're here. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about Black Girls Who Read, the book club for Black girls who like to read. And I'll see you guys in 2 Saturdays. Love you, bye.